Alright, so this is gonna be the dimensional analysis video. I'm gonna make this just like help some students that might not know what's going on, right? So that are still confused. So I'm basically gonna go over the entire lesson again, rather fairly quickly. All right, so let's go to my Google Classroom. I'm gonna click this. All right, and so actually gonna skip the do now. So the prefixes. Right, so on your reference table on the bottom left hand corner, you'll see all the prefixes. Right, you'll see tera, and beginning with tera, and then giga on the second row, and then mega on the third row, kilo, deci, centi, milli, micro, nano, and pico. And they all mean something different. Right, they all have a symbol associated with them, either capital or lowercase, and they have a notation with them as well. Right, and so again, they all have symbols. For example, deci has a symbol d lowercase d, and its notation is 10 to the negative 1. And milli is the symbol m, and the notation for milli is 10 to the negative 3. Now, those are our prefixes, right? Prefixes go before other things, but that's really just what the word means, right? Prefix. You attach it in the front of a word. And well, what do we attach it to? We attach it in front of something we call base units, right? And so the three base units and one more that we'll learn in class is called gram, meter, second, right? And we abbreviate gram as a G and meter as M and S as second. Right? And so these are all your three base units. And so if we were to combine prefixes and base units, right? For example, we have a prefix tera and one of our base units meter, well, then we would say terameter. And that would be a word, right? That would be our combination. Something like gigagram, right? Gigameter, gigasecond. That would be a combined unit, right? So kilogram, kilometer, and what's the other one? Kilosecond. And so all these things are combinations. You combine a prefix and combine a base. Let's talk about like a unit you might not be familiar with, like, right? We'll call it mm, right? And so the first m is our prefix, right? And so first m is our prefix, and the second m is our base, right? They aren't the same thing. They don't mean milli. They don't mean meter, right? So the first m is our prefix, and so our m here is milli because we know that's our lowercase m, and then so since the second m is our base, we're gonna call that meter, right? So we're gonna call that millimeter, right? I wouldn't call it meter. I wouldn't call it milli. It's called millimeter. Let's move on. All right. So again, you can combine anything. Let us say I'm actually gonna go to our cheat sheet. Right. So also on your notes. Right, I actually edited the notes to include. So if you had the old version of the notes, you're gonna see something different. But I edited the notes to have include something new. You can also find that on your cheat sheet, right, which is right here. Right, so you're gonna go to Google Classrooms. You're gonna go to 0.2. You're gonna go to cheat sheet. All right. So now in our cheat sheet, right. So you do see these steps. I'm gonna screenshot this, right. I'm gonna do that. Do that. Make it a little bit. Actually, I don't care. All right. So in that example, I'm pretty sure I gave each and one, every single one of you a cheat sheet. If you weren't here that day, then well, you didn't get it. Well, it's also online. But let's say, for example, one, right? So for example, one, we want to convert 7 grams to milligrams, and we want to do that. Well, step one of your cheat sheet says, well, you're going to write out your original number, which is 7g. Right, you're gonna write out your original number, which is 7g. You're gonna have it over 1. You're gonna divide it by 1, and then you're gonna multiply by the unit you want to convert into, which is mg. So we're gonna put that on the top, And we're going to put the unit we want to get rid of on the bottom, right? We want to get rid of this g. We want to get to mg. So these g's cancel out because one is on the top and the other is on the bottom. And we're going to put the 1 in front of the prefix, the unit with the prefix. And the unit with the prefix is mg here, right? So milli is our prefix. We're going to put 1 over it. And now we're going to come up with an equality, right? So now this is step 3. Right, this is step 3 now. So what is 1 milli equal to? Well, on your prefixes table, on your reference table, you should see that, well, 1 milli is 10 to the negative 3. And so now we're done with step 3. And now we're going to move on to step 4, right? We're gonna multiply it out. So 7 times 1, mg, it gives us 7 mg. And then 1 times 10 to the negative 3 gives us 10 to the negative 3. And now we're done with step 4. And now step 5, well, how do we divide powers of 10? This is also on your cheat sheet, right? Because on your cheat sheet, I tell you, well, on the first page scientific notation, that, well, when you're dividing by powers of 10, let me make it a little bit larger. Now, when you're dividing by powers of 10, you're actually going to flip the sign and multiply instead. So, for example, if you're doing 8.23 divided by 10 to the negative 4, well, when you finish this out, well, it's going to become, you're going to multiply by 10 to the positive 4. So it's going to be the opposite operation. So instead of division, you're multiplying, and the sign will be flipped instead. And so that's what we're going to do here, right? So this is essentially the same thing as 7 times 10 to the positive 3 mg. And now we finished our answer. Well, let's take a look at the opposite side, right? So let's take a look at the another example, right? So let's do that. Let's take example number 2 on your cheat sheet. And so step 1 says, well, actually I'll write it out. So we want to convert 5 times 10 to the 1 kilograms into grams, right? So we want to do that. And so again, step 1, you want to write your original number over 1. And then we're going to multiply by the unit we want to get, the unit we want, right, which is g, and the unit we want to get rid of, well, it goes on the bottom. The unit we want to get rid of goes on the bottom. And so now the kgs cancel out, right? We successfully got rid of that. And now the rule here is we want to put the 1 in front of the prefix, right? In front of the unit with the prefix. And, well, what is 1 kilo equal to on your reference table? Well, 1 kilo is equal to 10 to the positive 3. And now we're actually, we did steps 1 and 3 now. Now we're going to do step 4, which is multiply. Right, so now we're going to multiply. And so 5 times 10 to the 1 times 10 to the 3. And this is something we learned in scientific notation, the previous lesson, right? So when you're multiplying by powers of 10, what you're actually doing is that you're going to add their exponents. So you have 10 to the 1 plus 3. So you're going to have that over 1. I actually don't even know why I'm writing that one. But your final answer here is 5 times 10 to the 4 grams. And that's the second example. So the difference here is that, well, I just flipped where I put my 1 because the rule for the 1 is that you put the 1 in front of the unit, in front of the unit with the prefix. Right? And that's something you want to remember. And so now let's go back to our examples. And I'm going to actually start with... I'm gonna start with a B. Start with B. Actually, do one example here. Let's do that. So again, step 1, you want to write your original number. Well, this is your original number. So you're gonna do 5.0 times 10 to the 1 picosecond over 1 times, well, the unit we want to get rid of goes on the bottom because, right, PS, and the unit we want goes on the top. And the 1 goes in front of the prefix. The unit with the prefix is pico. second. So pico is my prefix. Put 1 in front of my prefix, and well, what is 1 pico equal to? Well, a pico is equal to 10 to the negative 12, which is saying on your reference table. So we multiply this out, right? When we multiply powers of 10, you have to remember that we actually add their exponents. This is seconds, so let's cancel out. And then our final answer here is 10 to the negative 11 seconds. And that's our final answer. And you essentially do that the same thing for C. Let's do E now. I'm only gonna do one example here, so let's do E. So again, your original number is 4.5 times 10 to the 1 second, right? This is my original number. So I'm gonna put that there. I'm gonna put it over 1, right? And we'll multiply by the unit we want to convert it to, which is ms. I'm gonna put the s, the unit we want to cancel out on the bottom, right? Because putting a unit on the top and bottom cancels them out. So I'm gonna put a 1 there, right? Because the 1 goes in front of the unit with the prefix. The unit with the prefix is a millisecond, right? So that m is our prefix. And what is 1 milli equal to? Well, 1 milli is equal to 10 to the negative 3. I'm going to put that on the bottom. So I have this 4.5, multiply it out, so 10 to the 1 divided by 10 to the negative 3. So again, if you recall, when you're dividing by powers of 10, you have to actually multiply them, and then you're going to flip the sign. Right, and so it's going to look like this, 4.5 times 10 to the 1 times 10 to the positive 3, right? So here, your sign here was negative because we're dividing by powers of 10. We actually have to flip the sign. Right, and so we finish this out. We know that when we're multiplying powers of 10, we actually have to add their exponents. The unit there is ms. And so 10 to the 4 is our final answer. Now, alternatively, you can do it this way, right? If you know that you're dividing 2 powers of 10s, well, actually, if you want to think about it, right, you're actually going to subtract their exponents, right? So you're doing 1 minus negative 3. So essentially, a double negative gives us positive plus, right? So plus 3. And then our final answer is going to be 4, 10 to the 4. Which is the same exact way, just using an alternate method. And so that's the end of this video, right? So please refer to the cheat sheet. It's very helpful. I like to think it's helpful. Just follow it step by step, right? And remember your scientific notation rules. All right.